Welcome to the session on statistical distributions, review exercises. The objectives for this session are to review previous topics through exercises, namely probability, using coins and dice. This session provides some background to statistical distributions. You may have seen some of these exercises before from previous sessions. Pause the video and have a go at these review exercises. When you are ready to view the solutions, press play. And now for the first exercise. 3 coins are flipped. Write down all possible outcomes. So if we toss the first coin, we could get heads or tails. Next, when we toss the next coin, we could get heads or tails following on from each of these 2 branches, as shown in the diagram. And then, when we toss the third coin, we again get heads or tails from each of the branches from the coin 2 toss. So what are all the possible outcomes we could have? We could have heads, 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 or heads, heads, tails, or heads, tails, heads, or heads, tails, tails, and similarly tails, heads, heads, tails, heads, tails, 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 heads, or tails, tails, tails. And now for the next exercise. Calculate the probability that all coins land on tails. There's only one way of getting all tails, as shown here. So we have that probability of a tail, tail, tail is 1 divided by the number of possible outcomes, which is of course 8. So the probability of 3 tails is 1 over 8. Now calculate the probability that exactly 2 of the coins land on heads. So we need to find the number of ways we can get exactly 2 heads. There's one way, heads, heads, tails, and the probability of that is 1/8. Then heads, tails, heads, again the probability of that is 1/8. And the probability of obtaining a tails, heads, heads, and that is 1/8 as well. So we have that the probability of obtaining exactly 2 heads is 3/8. Now calculate the probability that at least one of the coins lands on tails. So the probability of at least one tail is 1 minus the probability of no tails. And of course that's 1 minus 1 over 8, because the only way we can obtain no tails is heads, heads, heads. And of course the probability of heads, heads, heads is 1 out of 8. So the probability of at least one tail is 7 out of 8. And now for review exercise 2 part A. A boy rolls a dice. He keeps on rolling until he rolls a 6. Calculate the probability that he rolls the dice exactly 4 times. So we're going to find the probability that he throws no 6s on the first, second and third roll, followed by a 6 on the 4th roll. So we're looking for the probability of not 6, not 6, not 6, and then a 6. And this probability is 5/6 times 5/6 times 5/6 times 1/6. This is equal to 125 divided by 1296. And now for part B. We are required to calculate the probability that the boy rolls the dice fewer than 4 times. The probability of rolling fewer than 4 times is the probability of rolling 3 times plus the probability of rolling 2 times plus the probability of rolling once. And this is equal to probability of 3 times here plus probability of 2 times here and probability of once here. And of course recall that probability of not 6 or not rolling a 6 is 5/6. So here we have 5/6 times 5/6 times 1/6, which is the probability of rolling a 6. And similarly we add that to 5/6 times 1/6 plus probability of rolling a 6 on the first go, which is 1/6. And calculating this gives us the expression shown here. And finally, tidying up gives us 91 out of 216. And now for part C. We are required to calculate the probability that the boy rolls the dice more than 4 times. The probability of rolling the dice more than 4 times is 1 minus the probability of rolling the dice less than or equal to 4 times. This is equal to 1 minus the probability of rolling the dice less than 4 times, and this value of course is from part B, minus the probability of rolling the dice 4 times, and this value is from part A. And tidying up gives us this expression, which is equal to 625 out of 1296. This brings us to the end of this session. If you have understood its contents, you should be able to explore probability using coins and dice. Thank you very much for listening.